This podcast is sponsored by nobody.
Hey dudes, this is Peggy Lane O Rourke, producer of Donna on the Go, and you are listening to Tommy Throwback Kovac on Splat from the Past. Pervert, misogynist, movie nerd, take your pick. Tommy rocks them all.
Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming back my good friend Peggy Lane O Rourke. It's been a couple of years since she's been on. A lot of craziness has happened, especially with the strike and all, which we'll get into. But first and foremost, we are going to nerd out on the entertainment of our youth. We're going to find out, what movies, TV shows, and music we loved growing up, and just get to know each other, as artists and who we are and so forth. And it's going to be great. I love having Peggy on, We always have a lot of laughs. It's always a lot of fun. And I just love Peggy's energy. Also, rest in peace, Joyce Randolph, Trixie from the Honeymooners. The Honeymooners is officially dead. She outlived them all. Jackie Gleason, Art Carney, and Audrey Meadows. She lived to be almost 100 years. She was 99 and a half. She would have been 100 later this year. Rest in peace. So yeah, here is my new interview with Peggy Lane O Rourke.
How are you? Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. How are you doing, darling?
Hanging in there, trying to, not get sick. Everybody's sick.
I know. It goes in cycles. It comes and it goes. But, knock wood, everything's all right. So, going back in time, do you remember the first movie that impacted you as a child?
Oh, wow. Good question. Let's see. Well, one of the first movies I remember watching with my dad was Young Man with a Horn.
Oh.
Did you ever see that with Doris Day and Kirk Douglas and Lauren Bacall?
That's one of Kirk Douglas's best, I think.
Yeah, and there's a scene where Lauren Bacall breaks all his records, and I was horrified. I was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, but I thought that was the worst thing you could do to a person is take their music,
Mm-hmm.
And that really stayed with me. There was another movie that I saw with my dad too, Birdman of Alcatraz, Burt Lancaster.
Oh.
And that. And then, well, my all-time favorite still to this day, It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I love that movie so much.
It's great, yeah. I mean, for me, Back to the Future was the first one I had that, truly had an impact on me when I was, 3.5.
Yeah.
Because I started watching movies, from day one, but that one was the first one because, just like so many other people, I just loved that, I've had that fantasy of going back in time and seeing my parents in high school, so I think that's why it's so relatable,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, again, that's a great movie too,
Yeah. It's got everything in it. Comedy, drama, action, sci-fi, even some horrific moments, romance, everything.
Music.
Music, yep. Yeah. You grew up in the 70s when sci-fi and horror was dominating cable, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like late 70s and stuff. I think we've talked about my love for Halloween. I think we've talked about that.
Yep.
God, that movie really turned everything around for me because it was one of the first films that used Steadicam.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a different name for it at the time, and I've since forgotten it. But the tracking shot in the beginning when you see through the mask, and no one had done that,
Yeah.
And then his John Carpenter's use of scoring was so intermittent. It wasn't it didn't cue the kill movies like Alien or something you go that way.
Yeah.
And you go this way, and you hear the music, and you just cued the kill, right? You just no suspense. But he did it very sparsely.
Mm-hmm.
There's one time when Michael Myers pops up from behind a bush, and the music goes at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Peeled everybody off the ceiling. My God! Oh, no one had done that. And then he had put the way he framed all his shots too. I'm sure you know this as well. But like you would see something blurry in the corner that would come into focus.
Right.
You know, and then you'd be like, "Oh my God, turn around!" You know, like it was just. It took me almost 3 or 4 days to recover from that movie. I saw it with my mom at the time, and we went back to I wouldn't get in. We had to look in the back seat. We were home. We got home. I kept looking at like the side of the front door. You know, the little window above the front door. I look at it all in the corners, and it could come from anywhere, right? You know,
Yeah.
I think that he redefined the entire genre. I feel with that film.
Oh yeah. Well, both Back to the Future and Halloween had the same cinematographer, Dean Cundey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did a lot of PA work in my day.
Yeah.
And one of them was what was Kim Basinger film? I can't remember it, but he directed it, and I was the PA. One of them, you know, and they were looking for an actor. I'm standing right next to the actor, and you have the radio, and you're like, well, I can't say he's here. I have to let you know it so you can say it. It's a whole political thing. Mm-hmm. But at one point, John Carpenter needed water, and I never ran so fast. And normally, you would run that. It's like the Olympic torch, right? Just a simple bottled water is like, well, the first asked for it. So you run 2 blocks to get it, run 2 blocks back. Then you hand it to the first, and the first gives it to them. And they say, and they get the thank you. And I'm like, I went right to him. I broke protocol.
You don't remember what movie that was?
I got it. I'd have to look it up. No, that's a Judith Life film, Defense of a Married Man. Married something with Kim Basinger.
Married.
You know, I can't look it up because let me check on my computer while we talk, because it's bothering me that I don't remember it. I was just like thrilled to be like, I was standing next to him, you know, and like, should I say something? Do I, you know, and then people probably say something all the time, you know, like you don't want to be the person who gets fired because you said something, you know, but
yeah.
I was just like thrilled to sort of, you know, just be on a film that he did. I mean, it was not a great film, you know, but it's him.
Yeah. I'm looking at her filmography. I don't see anything that has Carpenter.
I'm pretty sure it was. You know, let me go to his IMDb. I'll find it. It would have been back probably late 80s, I think.
Did you have local horror hosts in Chicago when you were a kid?
Yeah, there was Svengali.
Yeah.
Who used to, like, you know...
Svengoolie?
Yeah, that's a Svengoolie, yeah. I used to really like that, you know, when we had hosts and stuff. I thought it was kind of cool because they would tell you a lot of facts about things.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't know about the movie. Like, oh, that's interesting. I always liked that.
Well, yeah, I mean, San Francisco had Bob Wilkins before I was born. And then John Stanley took over. They got rid of him about a year after I was born. I've had him on the podcast twice. He's a great guy. And when I was growing up, there wasn't any local people. There was just there's Captain USA. There was Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried on USA Up All Night, and Joe Bob Briggs. He started out over at the Movie Channel, then moved over to TNT Monster Vision. But that was pretty much it. I mean, now it's become kind of an art and kind of an influencer thing with the internet.
Yeah. It's different. I always like that. The hosting thing. You should do that.
Oh, I made an attempt to do a pilot in 2019 and it didn't pan out, and there was a lot of bullshit going on, and just it devastated me, Peggy, to no end.
I understand. But boy, you would be great at that. Maybe there's another way to do it.
Yeah, we'll see. It's never too late.
I mean, even quick TikTok stuff, you know, or something. I don't know.
Everyone's telling me I should do TikTok.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way about it. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, I did Facebook, and I like that because it's a way to reach out to people that you haven't seen in a long time, okay? And then Twitter came along. Okay, well, now I have to build that. And pre-Elon, of course. And she built all that up. And then Instagram, you're like, oh, stop with the stuff. You know? It's got so much work. Like, why does this become your whole day now,
Yeah.
And the hashtags and oh, boy.
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's Ray Harryhausen and the Universal monsters on TV a lot in those days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Shining was the first horror movie my parents let me see when I was only a year old. They didn't like horror, but they loved Jack Nicholson, so they let me watch it. It fucked me up, and it wasn't until I was 7 I watched it again and actually loved it.
7's really young. I mean, that's a serious film, man. That's a film. The older woman in the bathtub, and oh my god.
Yeah. My dad, okay, he was always drunk or something when he was watching the movie, and just recently I brought up the part where Shelley Duvall looks into the room and sees the guy in the teddy bear engaging in oral, and he literally did not remember that. He's like, that happened in that movie? I was like, yeah, Dad, and he's like, oh god, I must have been drunk all the time when we were watching.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens in that movie that's it's a serious film. You probably read this as well, but when I was doing PA work too, I worked on a Jack Nicholson film, and I asked him about this because I'd read it, but you never know if people get it right.
Yeah.
That he never used stand-ins on his films, Kubrick. And I thought, really? You mean to tell me that Jack Nicholson stood outside in that snow to set up that finale? I mean, really? That's Or you have such a great DP that they don't do it. And I thought that is so much harder on an actor.
Which movie was that?
Yeah, that was on The Shining.
No, I'm talking about the movie you worked with him on.
Oh, it was called Man Trouble.
Him and Ellen Barkin, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it was
Bob
one of the
Rafelson.
worst.
I think that was his last movie.
Yeah, there was a huge disconnect with the director and the writer were fighting, and they'd all been friends 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And you really realize that Nicholson was like the go-between, the peacekeeper. Well, I think what Bob means, you know what I mean? And he's just trying to get everybody to work together.
They worked with the monkeys.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how friendships dissolve over time when somebody becomes huge,
Yeah. It changes the whole dynamic, right? Because you're all on the same side and you're all trying to, one person gets even one rung up the ladder and and then they can turn on you.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, I thought we were friends. Are we happy for each other?
Yeah, it's weird. When you were growing up, James Bond was on ABC like once a month, and I got to see the tail end of that. That's how I first started seeing the James Bond movies, was on ABC.
Oh wow! I was never. My dad never really watched them. I was never into those, and now, now I have such an appreciation for stunt work and stuff that it's like these are great films. Helen Mirren was a Bond girl, right?
Yeah.
This very distinguished British actress was a Bond girl,
Yeah.
Yeah. But people don't seem to know that, and you're like, no, that's pretty fucking cool,
I've been lucky. I've had 2 Bond girls on here. I've had Caroline Munro, and I've had Gloria Hendry on like a month ago.
Oh wow, very cool.
Yeah.
I am looking up the Carpenter thing right now. How can I not remember that?
I don't know.
Well, because probably 30 years ago, that's how come. But
yeah, and The Wizard of Oz used to be on CBS like every Thanksgiving, and Sound of Music was on NBC every Easter. I remember that. And 10 Commandments would be on ABC at Easter.
Yeah, always. The Thornbirds was a thing when I was growing up, and that aired every week, which was, considering the subject matter. Yeah. Easter weekend, you're like, holy cow! I mean, that's quite the, My father loved that thing. He loved Barbara Stanwyck.
It was huge. I mean, it was like to the 80s what Roots was to the 70s.
Yes. Yes. And when I was growing up in school, they'll really date myself now, but Roots was, just aired. And we had a school assignment where we had a teacher who wanted everybody to do their family tree. And I thought, I'm out of this. So I raised my hand up and go, I can't do it. I'm adopted.
Yeah.
And everybody in that class turned around and looked at me like I said I was from Mars or something.
Yeah.
Oh, and I this is different. I guess other people aren't adopted. It was weird. And I remember one kid asking me, so you don't know who your parents are? And I'm like, yeah, they're right down the street. I don't go home. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It was really weird, but it got me out of the assignment. They didn't know what to say, right? I don't know my family tree. It stops here,
Yeah, so like last week was Elvis's birthday. Did you love Elvis movies growing up?
I never did.
Really?
Never got that. Now there's, just the same as the James Bond thing, more of an appreciation. The time has passed and the legacy lives on. But no, I didn't. Did you?
Oh, yeah. My mom indoctrinated me into being an Elvis fan because she had all the movies, all the albums, all the gold plates, with Elvis on them. We had Christmas ornaments, everything. My mom loves Elvis. And, I love G.I. Blues. That's my favorite. That's her favorite, too. King Creole, which has a young Jackie Joseph with a teddy bear in it.
I found it. I found the movie. It's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. It was Chevy Chase.
Oh.
And Derek.
Oh, God, you worked on that movie, you poor thing.
Yes. It was not a good film. And I don't think she was even in it. It was
Carol Hannah.
Oh my God, Patricia Heaton was in that. I didn't know her then. But she wasn't there
Michael
the few days
McKean's in it.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a great film, but, again, he was there,
Yeah.
The man, and you're just, there's been very few people, like in all the years when you're on a set or something, you're just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
And for me, he's just one of them,
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple funny moments in that movie, but it wasn't the best one.
No, not. I don't know, but I mean, it's it's weird. People want to work, right? So
yeah.
You're moving up in these big studio films, and that kind of probably anyone could do.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he's an artist.
Yeah, Steve Guttenberg did a movie years before called The Man Who Wasn't There, which was a parody of The Invisible Man, and. I interviewed the girl who played his love interest in it, and she had a lot of sexual harassment on that set, and Jeffrey Tambor had her back, which is quite funny because he was accused of Me Too, but he had her back on that set, which I just think is so ironic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really, wow. Yeah, it was rampant. It was rampant. I mean, if you were doing background work or stand-in work or acting or whatever,
yeah.
I mean, as a young woman on a set, someone always thought that they could get something from you. Like if it was a day player actor, it was sort of like, well, you had your pickings of the extras. You could find someone or whatever, or there was always a lot of abuse with ADs. And the vouchers, like it takes 3 union vouchers to be eligible to join the union, or if you get upgraded and given a line. So that's the 2 ways you can join SAG, now SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
So that gives them all the power, right?
Yeah, which is bullshit.
Yeah, and most of the ADs, particularly then, were men.
Mm-hmm.
And, I got harassed quite a few times, and it was, one was on Pretty Woman.
Oh, God.
Gary Martin that had a complete all-female AD staff. Mm-hmm. And this particular AD is walking around, what's the hotel? You'll have to help me with this. The hotel where Robert Kennedy was killed.
Was that the Beverly Palm Hotel? No.
No, starts with an A.
The Ambassador?
Yes.
Yeah.
Had to be that. So they were filming this, the bar scene.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing a waitress in it. And so this guy thinks he should take me on the tour and show me the kitchen where he was shot and all this stuff. And then he hints around that he can, certainly, help me get my vouchers. I'm like, dude, I joined the union when I was 10 in Chicago. I don't need you,
Yeah.
It was really offensive to me. And they had a company move after that scene. And I was trying to wait around to talk to the ADs because I wanted them to know, particularly because they were all women. Gary Marshall had an all-female AD staff. And I thought, you guys need to know this. I'm sure you don't know. Because I can't imagine that you would let this continue as women, I mean? And I couldn't get to them. The company moved. They were all gone. Couldn't find anybody. Couldn't officially report it. But rampant, and nothing happened. But it's so inappropriate. It's so,
yeah.
They're so confident in that nothing will happen to them.
Yeah, it's disgusting,
Yeah, it really is, and one of the committees I'm on in SAG-AFTRA is the Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee. And, we all have a litany of these stories, many, many, much, much worse. But it's just that it was so acceptable for so long that it's nice to see that at least the tide has turned somewhat, and that there are ways to report it and there are ways to fight back. And it's such a fine line, too, because sometimes people will be accused of something that doesn't seem major.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, well, hang on a second. I know the pendulum has to sometimes swing both ways before it actually evens out, but, it's a delicate balance, but I'm very proud to be on that committee.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working at Long's Drugstore years ago and stuff, I would always tell dirty jokes in the break room because I remember when we had to go through the curriculum handbook of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? It said that dirty jokes was considered sexual harassment. I still don't believe that's true. When you find your like-minded people, it's not. So I would tell them in the break room and stuff. I found out years later that certain people were complaining about me all the time, but the boss never did anything about it because he didn't see any harm in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's touchy. I was watching an episode of The Office this past week, and it was pretty much about that. Email forwards and jokes and everything, and of course, Steve Carell's character is an asshole.
Yeah.
But but that was the thing too. When I worked on Will and Grace 1.0, we had a sexual harassment thing that NBC put on, and they came and they spoke to us. They showed us this video. And they show you scenario A, scenario B, which one is wrong, and all this stuff. It was it's so basic and so obvious, There was no, where's the gray area for people? It's like, that's clearly wrong, that's clearly okay. But it was so, I don't know the word for it. But anyway, they wrote an episode about it. David and Max actually wrote an episode about it. But at the end of it, I think it was about an hour, and they make you sign all the paperwork, yeah, no, I understand. And so Sean Hayes gets up, and he would always drop his trousers. He had underwear, but he would drop his trousers and run around, and he ran around the stage floor and went, "Is this wrong? Is this okay?"
Yeah.
And it was so funny because there was so much tension.
Yeah.
In the room at that point, because everybody's like, "Can I say hello? Can I, can someone say you look pretty today?" Everyone was like really walking on ice, after that, because you're like, I don't know now.
Yeah, when Pamela Anderson did that thing in her documentary recently about Tim Allen showing his dick to her the last day that she was working on the show, and saying, "Hey, you showed me yours in that Playboy or whatever and stuff. Now I get to show you mine." I mean, that's a typical thing a comedian would do,
Wow. Yeah. Well, that one's a little. Oh boy.
And plus,
I mean, it's.
They knew each other for all that time, too,
Sometimes people are actually trying to break the ice.
Yeah.
just make everyone more comfortable, and sometimes you can easily misjudge a situation. It's so tough, and a lot of it is just understanding the person and their sensitivity. And this particular presentation that we had, and then again, every show that I was ever on would have it. Like at the beginning of the season, you'd have it, and anybody on the cast or crew list or something would have to do it and sign for it. But so much of it was political correctness and not necessarily sexual harassment. I mean, then just call it harassment.
Right.
Because it's not harassment. But particularly on that Will and Grace one, there was a real macho-looking guy he was one of the electricians or something, and he spoke about how he didn't want to tell people that he was gay because the people, the jokes would start. Hey, can you lift that? Can you lift that, princess, or whatever, and all this stuff, and the whole room got close. That was the whole point of the show, and it was just very moving to hear him be willing to share all that, but he knew that was, you're in a safe place. You're in the right place to talk about this, because people are raising sensitivities here. So it was very moving to me that he did that. And technically not sexual harassment.
Yeah.
But it's so weird because you think, does it determine your employment? Like, if I don't sleep with this guy, will I lose my job? That seems like, well, that's obvious sexual harassment.
Yes.
And then all that little gray area stuff,
Yeah.
Am I comfortable? I worked on a show. It was a pilot for a Stephen Bochco show called Brooklyn South. And there was an AD on there that basically did a Tim Allen, only I hadn't shown anything. And it was pretty horrifying. Again, these people do this because they're predators, and they know the situation. They know it's the end of the day. They know there's no one you can report it to because everyone's dispersing and everyone's gone, and then you have to go through the anguish of overnight trying to figure out what to do. And I came back the next day and I sought out the ADs. The second AD was a woman, and reported that he'd exposed himself and requested a specific act. And she went, I knew it. She just knew it, and then it went on through the day. And then I had to speak to the first AD. The first AD knew this guy. He's a member of a family that's like, they're like the Sheens of the AD world.
Okay.
They really were. A multi-generational DGA family. Mm-hmm. One of them was a UPM at ER forever. So, you're going to take these people on,
Yeah.
He had Thanksgiving and Christmas at their homes. He watched this guy grow up. So it's very hard for him to think that, and I understand that. But I'm just telling you, you have someone on your set that's doing this. You need to clean your house. You need to take care of people. And then later in the day, I had to go to the UPM's office. And I'm going to that, and I'm breaking down. I'm in tears on the long walk over in the Radford lot to this guy's office. And I saw him reach on the side of the desk, and I thought, I think he's recording this. I can't prove it, but it felt like it, And at that point, I wasn't as aware of things as I am now. I was like, look, I don't want to file a claim or anything. I'm not going to sue anybody, but you need to know that you have this person on your team, mm-hmm. Because I got out, I got away, but he's going to continue to prey on women. And the whole reason that I went forward, and the whole reason I'm telling you this, mm-hmm. is because I asked another woman that I was working with, and I said, how do you feel about him? And she said, he makes me uncomfortable. And that's what did it for me. I thought, why are we uncomfortable? He's fine.
Yeah.
He's not uncomfortable. He's just, looking through, who can I get today? And it's like, well, why are we uncomfortable here at work? That's not right.
Yeah.
And Steve Bochco Productions was the first production company to have a sexual harassment policy.
Wow.
You imagine how that would have looked? And I know they were concerned. So anyway, the UPM kind of I felt like he's playing let's make a deal with me.
Mm-hmm.
He says, when the show gets picked up to a pilot, you're welcome to, come back and all that. I'm like, oh, sure, that's in exchange for my silence. I get it. Well, the show did come back, and I never got a call, and it was the same UPM. So that was just to shut me up. And, but I kept checking religiously, like on IMDb, to see if that AD was back on that show, and he was not. But even worse, he went to a show called Melrose Place, the reboot, where we're nothing but young girls who probably want their SAG card.
Yeah.
So it's just pervasive.
Shocking.
Yeah, and that's, and these are, fairly, not that, they're inappropriate as all hell, and it's a misuse of power.
Mm-hmm.
But there's far, far worse things that happen,
Yeah.
And it's so wrong. It's so wrong,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny. As long as I've known you, Peggy, you've always exuded asexuality to me.
Okay.
I think it's a stand-in thing because Terry Bolo, she's definitely asexual. She came out as asexual on here a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I was so touched by that, because I just, her and I are so close. I mean, we talk all the time, and
yeah.
it made me feel so good that she did that.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
My thing goes back to when I was playing professionally in bands
mm-hmm.
with people that were all like 10 to 15-year-olds. I started singing professionally in clubs when I was 13.
Yeah.
My mom came with me as my vocal coach, right?
Yeah.
But, people figured that out pretty quickly. But I really, as I was growing up and once I hit like 18, 19 and stuff, I heard the way guys talked about women. And it was really about, what they wanted to do, what they did, what happened before they got there.
Yeah.
All this, that I don't want them to talk about me like that. Yeah. I'd rather they thought of me as like a professional equal.
Yeah.
Or one of the guys.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dismissed like that. So it was like really important to me that one night after rehearsal, we all went out drinking. And I was determined to keep up, right? I got to be one of the guys. I got so sick. I got 2 times in my life, I've been just sick,
yeah.
And you're like, okay, I can't recognize that feeling after the second drink. I know what that means now. Stop. And who wants to do that? I don't know how people do that all the time. It's just horrible. But yeah, that was my thing, was that I wanted to be considered a professional and an equal.
I consider you one, Peggy. I'll tell you something that disturbs me. I don't mind sitting around with people talking about the first girl that we fingered in junior high or stuff like that. But when you're making bets about who's going to get that girl at the end of the night and stuff, that kind of shit makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I don't like that.
So much with music. It's, and ironically, film and television is kind of being more aware in its, response to what's acceptable and what isn't. And music is just maybe starting.
I know.
Because, it was just par for the course that, groupies would be abused or whatever,
Yeah. And of course, there's Pamela Day Barr, who normalizes being a groupie, which she normalizes the good parts of it. I don't know how much of it is really her thing, or how much of it is her persona because she's trying to keep creepy guys away or anything like that. But that's what she does.
Right. Yeah, I have her book too. I have the old paperback here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first drive-in movie you ever saw?
Oh gosh. No, I don't remember the name of it, but I remember that there was a scene in it, which
mm-hmm.
was there was a scene that haunted me for years, and I still can't figure out what movie it is. It was just footsteps. It was like a close-up of some guy's footsteps going in. It might have been a war film. I don't know. I can't imagine my folks would have taken me to a war film when I was a kid. But, like, that was the only thing that stuck with. I had all my dolls in the back seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you try to explain the movie to the dolls. And, but it was, yeah, I don't remember what movie. We didn't go often because I was too much of a project.
Yeah.
All of my had to go with in the back. Did you go a lot?
Yeah, so when I was starting at 2, my parents took me to see Weird Science and Rambo 2 at the drive-in. And
what?
I have a little bit of a memory of it, a little bit.
That's quite a double feature.
Yes, but when I was about 3.5, they stopped taking me for about 3 years because it got to a point where I was either falling asleep very early in the back seat, or I was getting out of the car and knocking on windshields.
Right.
Yeah. I remember...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah, I don't remember what was going on, but apparently that happened. But I remember, like, one of the last times we went, my mom went to the snack bar to complain about something, and she brought me with her. And there was a stand-up cardboard poster of Charlie Chaplin, the first time I ever saw him. And it was a cookie ad. And I said, "Mommy, I want a cookie just like that man has." And she's like, "You don't get a cookie because I'm mad right now." Yeah.
All I remember, like, the sound was just so horrible.
Yeah.
You know, like, state-of-the-art sound and IMAX theaters and all this stuff. And it's like the sound of, you know?
Yeah.
How could you enjoy a movie like that?
Well, it got to a point where they did this thing where you could actually turn the sound of the movie on your radio. Yeah, they gave you, like, a code. You know, this was, like, in the last few years that we had a drive-in in the Bay Area, like 97 to, like, 2000, around that era, we were able to do that.
It had to be better. I mean, well, it couldn't be worse. There were some that I've worked with that have posted. I guess there's a drive-in theater somewhere in the San Fernando Valley.
I don't know. I mean, this was
North Hollywood.
This was in the Bay Area where I'm from.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a couple drive-ins left, but not many.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see. Well, I mean, like, even movie theaters are struggling now.
Oh yeah.
You know, it needs to be kind of an event. For me, I would rather watch something at home. You know, my dogs are here. It's the right temperature. There's nobody behind me that's talking. You know. But and those are more dramas. You know, like, you know, a bunch of close-ups of people talking or whatever. But Oppenheimer, I'm going to the theater. You know.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, a lot of the revival houses are going away. We still have ours in the Bay Area, Stanford Movie Theater. I love that place. I just wish that they would play newer old movies, because they keep showing the same ones over and over again from each movie star or director. You know, I wish that they would just, you know, put forth some money to get the rights to use movies that they don't really show. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, how just the methods of distribution change over time. Like, even, like, we were talking about social media and TikTok and stuff, and
yeah,
it keeps changing, and it's hard to keep up. I mean, movie theaters, you have multi-billion-dollar investments, and, you know, post-pandemic, it's amazing to me that so many did survive.
It's amazing.
Know, prior to the pandemic, too, they really weren't making their profit on the film. You know, it's really the popcorn and the snacks and stuff, and that's the reason for the markup is to afford to show the movie. And you have to have a staff, you have to have theaters, you have to upgrade your sound, you have to upgrade the screens. You know, it used to be 3D and then IMAX and like where I am out in Lancaster, there's an IMAX theater, but it is much smaller IMAX than Burbank. You know, it doesn't feel like the NASA, you know, with the 2 stories. But the sound is great.
Those $10 boxes of Milk Duds.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
you know, maybe
when they started selling those for like $10, that's when I stopped buying Milk Duds at the movie theater, and I I was always getting them when I was a kid, but then once they got higher and higher, I stopped.
You would pay more than you did for the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like if you went to a matinee or something, you could get in for, there was a $1 theater up here where I am for a long time. And, then it became like $1 or $2. You could see the movie for like $3 or $4, but popcorn was $8. It's like, hang on a second.
It's crazy. Did you watch all the classic sitcoms growing up?
Oh, yeah, very much so. I've always preferred sitcoms. Life seems hard enough, so, you know. Yeah. I loved All in the Family. To me was the one for many people, like my age or whatever, is like, that's my dad. That's my dad. My dad was Archie Bunker. And when we moved up here, we literally got George Jefferson next door.
Oh, God.
Yeah, finally get the lesson,
Yeah.
Because, he grew up in a very different time, and,
Yeah.
he grew up in a really nice neighborhood in Chicago, and that neighborhood changed over time so much that it became a gang area. It was so bad that I never got to see the house my dad grew up in. So that's his perception of it.
I got to meet my great grandmother one time. She was 104 when she died.
Whoa!
She grew up in Kentucky, and my other grandmother, grew up in Kentucky with her. And my great grandmother, she would just use slurs like crazy. From what my dad told me, I never got to see it, but when he was a kid, he saw it all the time.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad, he didn't use slurs, but the prejudice was there. It was a concern for him, a legitimate concern for him, based on what he saw growing up.
Yeah.
Moving out to California, it was just like, you don't realize, like, hey, we're not, there's all kinds of people here. And, and it still remains on the block during the LA riots. I was working at Radford, and I drove home and I drove up here, and the kids across the street had a basketball hoop, and all the kids on the street were playing. It's like you're down there turning on each other and starting a race war, and you come up here, you give people enough space, and everything okay, and it's just like, maybe we will be okay, maybe we're okay. It was really... It was interesting to see my dad, change over time. And that very neighbor that, George Jefferson, who's, by the way, his name is George. When my dad started to get older and needed a rolling walker, and he would roll down to the corner to get the mail and come back, George kept an eye on him,
Yeah.
So there you go, Dad,
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, we just lost Norman Lear, and it's funny. Yeah. The guy lived to be 101 or whatever. He didn't get success till he was 50. Isn't that amazing?
I know. Yeah, I mean, those were the sitcoms to me that were just brilliant. And, there's still something, and you can still see them and everything in Maude. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the subject matters.
Yeah.
That they were able to address in a sitcom in a way, which to me is also kind of what Will and Grace did, was to take something that people might have had a preconceived notion about, or maybe not an opinion at all, and just humanize it in such a way, that maybe you did learn to care. And Will and Grace was like a life-changing experience for me to see that we had crew members that worked on the show that were convinced that the show would not go because of the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ellen's show, she'd come out, but then like the last season, the numbers dropped, of course. And so there was this perception, you can't tell the story, you can't do this show. But they found a way to do it. And we shot the Halloween episode. I think we were only 4 or 5 episodes in. But it was like a Starsky and Hutch thing.
Yeah. Where
Jack meets the guy and then it doesn't work out. And then one of the guys that was like not happy about being on the show actually went, "Aww." And I thought, "Aww." Oh my God, we're 4 episodes in and they found this is going to work. They found a way that even this guy cares, and and he did not want to be there. He was trying to get another show. We had 8 years. And then it came back many years later. But yeah, so it's just you can. I think you can teach so much with comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, more than drama, because it feels like you're kind of being preached to sometimes.
Well, it's funny because I just talked to this old television historian named Mitchell Hadley, who has a book out. We were talking about how in the 50s, you had sitcoms like Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best and Dobie Gillis and all these shows that pushed the bullshit narrative of the American
Right.
landscape at that time of wholesome, all-American, everything's good, clean living, whatever. And then by the time Norman Lear and Gary Marshall comes in, more so of Norman Lear, sitcoms became about what's real and what's going on in the world,
Right.
and
Right.
nothing is what it's cracked up to be.
Right, exactly. The escapism first, you know.
Yeah.
Like I Love Lucy was funny. It's considered one of the best sitcoms in history.
Yeah.
But if you look at it now, it's very much, a woman who had to trick her husband into letting her do what she wants. It's you couldn't sell that premise now.
Yeah.
You know.
I think you could actually with the whole Me Too thing. I think you could.
Well, maybe. But it's like, I mean, I've read many, feminist accounts of I Love Lucy and how oh my God, doesn't hold up. And it's like, yeah, but it was funny. It was funny, and it was a different time. And this woman ran the studio. Yeah. Lucy ran the damn studio. She and Desi ran Desilu Productions. I mean, she was so no,
Yeah.
You could look at, I don't know, Maude or another, Mary Tyler Moore. They didn't run the studio. Lucy did. So.
Yeah. I'm a huge Brady Bunch fan. I've literally seen every episode since like 1987, and I want to interview a Brady before I hang it up. I really do. I haven't been able to make the connection, but like, I love the Brady Bunch. That was like the first show I could think of, maybe My Three Sons, where it's like it's a family that's a little broken, a little fucked up, and yet they're so normal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like everybody watched that. I used to for a while I dated Cousin Oliver.
Oh, Robbie?
Yeah. Have you interviewed Robbie? I think you'd love him. I think you guys would really get along.
I've had Robbie on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the same kind of humor and stuff. And yeah, he's in Florida now. He's married. He went to Florida.
He is so damn funny, that guy.
Yeah. Oh, he is. He is great. Yeah.
He's still got that Ninja Turtle voice.
I know. For a long time, like I would hear, you'd be in the car and you'd hear a voiceover or something. You're like, that's him. I can tell,
Yeah. Wow, I did not know that. Okay, you're not as asexual as I thought.
No. I'm actually, it's an attempt at being professional, so I'm treated equally because I grew up, not experiencing that. I think maybe if I hadn't been in music, it'd be different. Yeah. But, hearing that stuff from those guys, like, oh, no, you're not going to talk about me like that. Nope.
No. Let's talk about music, though. Like, what was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh, God, Doobie Brothers. Two Doobie Brothers albums, Toulouse Street and The Captain and Me, I think.
My dad had The Captain and Me on vinyl when I was a kid.
Yep, still have it. I still have my record collection. It's like sacred, that's going back to the horn. You can't break the records.
My dad, being a Bay Area native, my dad had a great appreciation for other people from the Bay Area, and especially in music. We had the first Montrose record on vinyl. We had Jefferson Starship's Red Octopus. My mom loves that record,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the first. And, like, prior to that, it just been, like, MGM musicals. Because I was a kid that went to, like, dance classes and ballet and tap. And it was always, like, the Parade or Judy Garland films or all the MGM musicals. And then I got in a band or something. And Doobie Brothers was like, this is the first, like, long-haired rock music, Like, woo!
Yeah.
And the first concert I ever went to was Styx when I lived in Chicago, and they're hometown heroes.
Oh, let me tell you, my dad had a boss from Chicago, and he grew up literally 2 blocks away from Styx. And when he was 8, and they were just starting, this was like 1970 or whatever, he got to go see them rehearse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. When I don't know how young I was, but there was, I still had my mom as a vocal coach, so in my teens. Early teens, I believe. There was a manager who had a contract who wanted to sign me, and my mom wasn't sure. So she didn't know who to call. She just called her. She finally figured out recordings. You can go online and look at it, right? So she called up a prestigious recording studio, and she talked to a guy for a long time. And she was reading some of this stuff from the contract to the guy. I'm like, who is this guy? This guy is like so nice to take time with my mom. And he didn't recommend it. He didn't like what the contract was, and he didn't think it was very fair or whatever. It turned out to be Tommy from Styx.
Tommy Shaw, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's spent all that time with my mom, and I just thought, what a sweet thing. They're recording. They're there working. He's on the phone 20, 30 minutes with a strange woman, trying to help advise her, which is an incredibly sweet thing to do. And we didn't sign with that guy. But, so Styx for many reasons, hometown heroes. They're from Cicero, Illinois. And the first concert I ever went to was a Styx concert. And it was like church. It's like what church should feel like. You're like, oh, this is amazing,
I just remembered, it slipped on by me, but I saw Styx in 2015 with Def Leppard and Tesla.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no Dennis DeYoung. It was Tommy Shaw, and they didn't do any of Shaw's songs except for Lady. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh.
So it was a great concert.
Oh, I'll bet. But Dennis DeYoung is, he's the Steve Perry of the,
Yeah.
It's like, oh gosh, when I worked again back on Will and Grace, one of the sound guys was friends with Steve Perry.
Nice.
So he would sometimes come to rehearsals and tapings. And one day he was sitting up in the bleachers with us in rehearsals. The bleachers are empty except for maybe 6 or 7 people. And he was just sitting up there. And, and I just thought, I have to say something. How do I say something and be cool? Because the people that made me want to be singers are Steve Perry and Ann Wilson from Heart.
Oh.
And I sang professionally for 25, 30 years. And so I finally I managed to calm myself down. You're one of the most beautiful voices in the world. And he was like, oh, thank you. He was so sweet. His hair was short, so I think some people might not have recognized him. Short for him, just below the ears or something. And he was nice. He used to hang out all the time there.
Oh, yeah. I saw Journey with the new singer back in 2014, and that was a great show. Steve Miller opened, and Neil Schon went out there. And by the way, my uncles hung out with Neil Schon in high school. He went to the rival high school in the Bay Area. And Steve Miller and Neil Schon started doing an acoustic medley of songs, and they ended with Stairway to Heaven, and it was so right on and great.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Journey, I was a huge, huge fan of Journey.
Me too.
Robbie and I fight all the time because I liked, Toto and stuff like that. Or Anita Baker or something, and he liked the Clash. And we would go back and forth on, we go back and forth my people are professionals. They're studio musicians,
Yeah.
But, your guys are heroin addicts,
Yeah.
He's a really talented musician and songwriter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, let's see. The first 2 albums I bought, my grandmother gave me birthday money when I was 8, and I got Phil Collins' No Jacket Required and Poison's Look What the Cat Dragged In, because I watched MTV a lot when I was a kid, and so I knew the songs.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine that I was in a band with, Stu Simone, he toured with Poison for a while, too.
Yeah.
It's so funny because like I had my own band in Chicago and then out here as well, and it's hard keeping a band together. My God, you lose a week of work, you lose the drummer, and you got to bring another drummer, and you got to relearn all the same songs. It's a cover band, and he was like this long hair, David Lee Roth guy. He still plays. He sells real estate. He still plays.
Nice.
Well, we had the most fun, though, because, like, we were the two people that, like, we would stand on people's tables, and play and just have a lot of fun. Like, you're in some little club, but we are rock stars, Like, he was, like, the only person I played with that would, like, play along. Everybody else would look at you like, there's, like, 4 people here. What are you doing? I was like, well, we could at least have fun. We're not making a lot of money,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the first, like, make-out song you ever had?
Oh, gosh. Wow.
Because I remember mine.
It would have been Journey.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been Journey. Probably, like, Faithfully and Open Arms and all that,
Yeah.
Yeah. They're great songs.
Mine was Janet Jackson's Love Will Never Do Without.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, God, MTV used to play that video ad nauseum when I was 7, I remember.
Yep, always.
Because what's his name? Herb Ritz directed it. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Janet Jackson did an episode of Will and Grace, and she was so cool. She had her dancers, and they, like, just hung out on the side and sat on the floor. She was so not... you're like, you've got a legend here in the room, and she was just super cool. And other people were wanted to make sure that everyone knew they were a legend.
Well, she started out, acting in sitcoms. She was on Good Times and Different Strokes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've always heard that she's always been just so friendly and approachable and fun,
She was, I mean, like, there were times like you didn't even know she was there. Okay, like the 80s were looking for her. So she's just sitting right on the next set on the floor. She's right there. Like they're so used to after people and looking that like the fact that someone would be that cooperative was like, wow. Yeah. She was very sweet.
Yeah, she did that episode of Saturday Night Live where they're doing the cork soaker sketch.
Oh yeah.
That is so hilarious. You can see she's just tried so hard to keep a straight face, but she can't.
Right. Those are the best ones. Those are the best ones when people are losing it because you can't help but laugh along,
Yeah. Because
people are genuinely happy. It's like the whole reason Carol Burnett show was so much fun.
Yeah, Cowbell, and
yeah.
The Cowbell and Dick in a Box and all these hilarious sketches. Yeah,
really funny stuff.
As far as I know, they haven't done a really like controversial sketch in quite a while.
Yeah. It's well, there's a lot, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, it really is.
How about your first comedy record?
First comedy record? All George Carlin, all the time.
Yeah. I am so disturbed by that AI special that just came out. I won't watch it.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
I heard some of it played a little bit on the radio when I was driving, and it didn't even sound like him. And you're like, well, if this is AI, it doesn't really sound like him.
It's not state of the art.
Exactly. And good for his daughter for.
Oh, yeah. I've talked to Kelly, and, I mean, I was just like, God, it's so disrespectful. And I heard Frank Sinatra do Highway to Hell on YouTube, and it was funny, right? But at the same time, it was a little disturbing because there was this really creepy noise going on in the background. I'm like, what's that? Is that the sound of the AI guy laughing at this?
Oh gosh! Oh wow! Oh, that just sounds horrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah.
Carlin did a bit called "I Used to Be Irish Catholic."
Yes.
It's one of my favorite bits of all time because I grew up Irish Catholic, and I absolutely love that one.
Yeah, he says, I was Catholic until I reached the age of reason.
Right. Rules on me.
Yeah.
We all go see Father Rivera because he didn't understand the sins.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant stuff. And then ironically, my dad loved Red Fox.
Yeah.
My dad was Catholic, went to church every Sunday, never swore, and then he liked Red Fox. And so I got him this, and I still have this VHS tape live in I think, brown paper wrapper or whatever. So we watched the thing, and it's filthy, right? I mean, It's just, this is not Sanford and Son. This is what the man did, And it's funny, but at one point he's describing, various sexual acts and stuff, and and I laughed at my dad didn't laugh at.
Yeah.
And then he looked at me, and I'm not gonna explain this to my dad, and it was just. Well, it's just the way he said it was kind of funny, oh boy, is this awkward,
My, do you remember Susan Buckner?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
She played Patty Simcox in Grease. Okay, I talked to her a couple of years ago, and we talked over 2 hours. She's a force of nature. She's all over the place. We had a fun time, and she told me a story about going to see Red Fox perform, and he did this bit where he's talking about the taint, and he says, "Does anybody in this room know what the taint is? It's between the pussy and the ass." And it got a huge laugh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that stuff was fun. I watched it since my dad has passed and stuff. I've watched it too because what was so bad and it seems so tame now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, anytime you're seeing something like that, with your folks, or the movie Coming Home with the sex scene, you're like, oh my God, that scene was like an hour, and and you look later, it's a couple minutes actually. It wasn't, oh.
My first comedy album was my mom had on vinyl Lily Tomlin's "This Is a Recording."
Oh yeah.
And
I have a lot of her albums too. It's great stuff.
Oh yeah, and That's the Truth. That one too. She had. And yeah, but this one, she's calling up Joan Collins and saying the Coca-Cola Company wants to talk to her.
Great. So Jane Wagner, what a writer, and of course Lily Tomlin was on Will and Grace, and I brought the copy of the book, and she said, well, let me take it home to Jane and have her sign it because she wrote it, and I thought I'm never going to see that book again, but she brought it back, and it was she's very sweet.
Yeah, I when I was in high school, she came to our performing arts center to give a lecture, and I can't remember what I was doing that night, but I was going to attempt to go, and I regret never doing it because I'm sure she was doing a meet and greet. I would have loved to have met her.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic,
Yeah. Yeah, Terry has a story about going to the Academy Awards when Nashville was nominated because she knew Lily through mutual friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool. That scene where he sings "I'm Easy." Yeah. And there's women that think it's for them, and it's only for her. He'll never forget her, and he'll never remember any of them. And boy, that was a great movie. That was a long movie, too. That was one of the early 3-hour movies,
Oh, that ending alone is 3 hours. It goes on forever with that song. But I love it. It influenced what's his name, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I watched Killers of the Flower Moon last night, and you're 3.5 hours. I keep looking at it, going, "Oh my God, there's another 2 hours."
Yeah. What are your top 3 desert island albums?
Oh gosh, Manhattan Transfer Vocalist is number 1.
Nice.
I love that album. Probably Steely Dan's Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be torn on my Pink Floyd's. I'd probably take The Wall instead of Dark Side just because it's longer and I'd have more music.
Love it. Yeah.
What would yours be?
The Doors' first album, Van Halen's first album, and The Go-Go's Beauty and the Beat, because those 3 albums represent 3 different eras of LA rock and just so beautifully done.
Van Halen, huge crush on Eddie. When I heard that, he was dating Bertinelli, I was so upset.
Yeah.
She didn't know who he was. Excuse me?
Yeah.
And so many years many years later, my friend Carol lived by the Ralph's on Coldwater in Ventura, and she's like, "Hey, if you can get over here," I was at Radford working. She's like, "Eddie Van Halen's here," and I'm like, "He's what?" I raced down Ventura Boulevard like I was in Indy 500 parked, and she's trying to tell me what aisle he's in, and I'm walking in the aisles and jumping up and seeing if I can see him, and she said, "No, he's in the parking lot," because she was there. And so I run out in the parking lot, and there he is. I'm like, oh, and he's in his car. And then I always had a cassette then of my band with me, just in case, right? And so I went over to him. By the way, this is Valentine's Day, okay? Mm-hmm. And I talked to him just a little bit, and I'd asked him. Eventually I asked him if I could give him a tape of my band, and he was like, "I'm so sorry, we can't do it." They got sued, right, for Diver Down.
Yeah.
So he's like, "I can't do it, but you can send it to our management company," which I thought was what a sweet thing to say,
Yeah.
And he gave me a little kiss on the cheek, and he left. And I got in my car, and I was going to my friend's house, who, by the way, lived right up Fulton. And I was all the way in Encino before I realized I'd taken a wrong turn.
Yeah.
It was just still remains one of my best Valentine's Day ever. I mean, that little crooked smile with the front.
I've only had one good Valentine's Day in my whole life, and that's 2020 when I had Stacey Delkin come on the podcast. I'm such a huge fan of her, and she's been on 3 times total. But I've never had a good Valentine's when it comes to dates or anything in my life.
Yeah, it's weird because all these days, I mean, there's all this this societal pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
Has to be, this is romantic, this is family, this is this. I'm like, oh, it's okay if it isn't, it doesn't have to be. There's all kinds of love, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've had nice Valentine's Day. I've had some awful ones,
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just wrong people,
But love is every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that the strike is over, have you gotten some peace of mind over this?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously the work continues. We're seating our union committees now, the local ones and then the national ones. Mm-hmm. And I chair a few committees, so there's a lot to work on. But we accomplished a lot. We really, really did. I mean, It's 3 times the contract, and I mean, so. To me, for people that think nothing is enough, you're like, well, look at the price you paid to get this, okay?
Yeah.
This was a lot. This was, and a lot of pressure on other guilds, IATSE members and Teamsters and writers, directors and stuff, but they made their deal.
Yeah.
But I'm real proud of it, and the thing with any negotiation, because I've gone in on shows that I've worked on and tried to make a deal for myself and my team, or if it was just like a dialogue coach job or something for myself. And you can see, you can feel, when you've done the best you can. This is as much as they'll give right now.
Yeah.
And if you want to walk out on that, go ahead, but someone else will be in there in a few minutes. So, I think that's an important part of it, too, is recognizing when you've gotten the most that you can do at this time. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, I truly feel that we did. I think I freaking love Fran. I adore her.
Yeah.
I got to speak to the AMPTP, and it was quite an experience. I've been in negotiations with them, but Carol Lombardini wasn't in the room. And it was on my bucket list. I just wanted to see this woman, because there was a man named Nick Counter that had her job. Well, perfect name for the guy. And
yeah.
people hated him, but they loathed her. And I thought, is it because she's a woman? Because it is her job to say no. They pay her a great deal of money, $3 million a year, plus, like a 10% thank you for screwing people over bonus or whatever. Right? That's your job. You hire her. She's supposed to be good at her job. We're supposed to be good at our job.
Right.
So I really wanted to see her. And, I got to go in and I saw her. I watched her listen to the person that spoke before me. And it was interesting to watch her. I did not find her rude. Yeah, I wasn't there for the whole thing. Okay, I was there for my pitch, but in my pitch, I found her to be quite respectful. I made sure I kept my eye contact with her. And you go into these things, it's really amazing, Tommy, because it's like the Last Supper times 3, right? There's 3 of them on their side, literally are across the table from them. And they've got all their people, going back 3 or 4 rows, and so do we. And you just try to explain what it is you do and why it has value. And I really, and then at one point I said something, and she repeated it to her side of the table. I'm thinking, oh my God, she's making my case for me.
Oh.
You know?
That. Yeah.
And I want to tell you briefly how much I love Fran Drescher, and I will tell you why.
Okay.
I was explaining the work that I did on Will and Grace, and many other people do. If you're standing in on a multi-camera show, you're what we call a rehearsal actor. Mm-hmm. You're really kind of an understudy. Like when Megan Mullally wasn't there, I would rehearse for her. And then one day she came in and asked why a line of hers has been cut. And Jimmy Burrows, the man, the myth, the legend, Jimmy Burrows says to Megan Mullally, well, Peggy didn't get a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I held for that. I let that hold. And then Fran Drescher, sitting 2 seats over from me, said, wow. And I felt the energy in that room shift. Because the president of our guild right now is saying that is a big deal. Mm-hmm. That they're trusting you, like an understudy. They're actually trusting you to perform up to a certain level so that they can actually see if their jokes work. And I thought, oh my God, the whole room, now they're really going to listen to me, And Jolie Fisher was there, and I talked a little bit about being on the coming out episode of Ellen. I got to rehearse for Katie Lang and Oprah. Yeah. Go figure. And, Mark Sandman represents ABC, and he wasn't their main attorney at the time. But I talked about how, I got to rehearse for Oprah. I'm the one that got to say, good for you, you're gay, to Ellen. And in the network run-through, everything's riding on the network. The network has death threats. Ellen had death threats. This was a huge moment. It became one of the lines that defined that episode. Yeah. And I was trusted with making sure that worked. That's a big thing. That's a big, big moment. And I'd never seen so many people at a run-through in my life. I mean, normally maybe 50 people. There were a couple hundred people on the floor. So many people they couldn't possibly see all the set, Mm-hmm. And, the line worked. Oprah came in on Friday. It worked. It became, to me, the line of it. It was permission from Oprah. Good for you. You're gay. And so as I'm saying this, I look down the table, and Jolie Fisher's leaning halfway across. Mm-hmm. And feel all the love she's sending me. And then I realized afterwards, because I hadn't even intended to say it. Yeah. But I'm thinking the top 2 officers in the union right now, our president and our secretary-treasurer, were part of my pitch. And validating what I feel, we bring to the table that, by the way, they don't have to pay us anything for. And I thought, we're going to get something. I know we are. I know it. And we did. We did. I mean, there's never been anything codified that they had to pay you for it. Mm-hmm. You could be sheriff for the week, right? Yeah. And at the end of the week, they're like, you're searching their pockets for spare change, Mm-hmm. Maybe 20, maybe not. But I was share, Yeah. I don't understand. There was singing and stuff. And so, now they do. But it was a very interesting experience. And I checked it off my bucket list. At least I got to see Carol Lombardini.
Yeah. I've been wanting to have Jolie Fisher on here. Maybe this year I'll try again. It's been a long time since I attempted. I mean, I was so proud of you during the strike. All your leadership skills are just fantastic, and you looked really good in a purple T-shirt, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. I'm not happy with those pictures, but it was a moment. I got to you can organize a ticket, and we did that, and so many people came out. And it's just the amount of, literally, I mean, it sounds like a cliche to use the word unity, but the amount of unity that everybody felt. You know, you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing people all the time in the lines that you normally compete with, you audition against, or you were, oh, they got that job and I didn't, whatever.
Yeah.
And now all of you are like, yeah, but you know what, we need each other because this is wrong. We're all getting taken advantage of. And so it was very profound. I mean, it really, the whole experience was, and that's Fran.
Yeah.
We didn't go in with strike authorizations for many, many years. And we got subpar contracts, which led to people losing their benefits.
Yeah.
So
I was worried this whole thing because I was afraid everyone was going to lose their house, you know, at the longer that they didn't have work and that they were out there and everything. And I thought, fuck, then it was going to turn into Ohio, you know, in 1970. I was just worried because this is such a fucked up, weird time, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Absolutely. And that's the other thing that you try to find the balance for survival of all. Because, I mean, if AI went the way that everyone feared with just like this open gate that they could do whatever they want, then yeah, we're all obsolete in like 3 or 4 years, perhaps. You can't let that happen. Yeah. You have to rein that, protect the industry. Because, I mean, if they don't need actors, well, they don't need hair and makeup people. They don't need a DP. They don't need grips and electricians and drivers and craft service people and hair and makeup people and costumes. I mean, we all need each other. But at what point, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, it was a very obvious point where, like, okay, this is the best we will do, and it is really damn good. So, you know, I'm proud that I got to be a little part of that.
Yeah, and God, I just hope something, you know, something's got to give with this whole AI thing. You know, I mean, if they want to do it for animation, you know, that's fine. But you know, you can't replace people. This is just ridiculous.
Exactly. And I think they know it. I mean, you know, I'd had concerns for years, like Polar Express. You're just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Terry worked on that movie.
It's the guys, you know, and stuff. And then there's, I don't know. It a lot of it would depend if people went.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, are people going to watch this George Carlin thing or are they not? I mean, if people don't go, they won't do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot to it, but at least now there's some fences and some protection where there was none. Mm-hmm. You can't have the wild. You can't trust these people to do the right thing. The whole reason we have negotiations is because they won't. They won't voluntarily do it. So
yeah,
you have to go and get them to agree. And it's a lot. I'm still in 2 negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
It's one from Nickelodeon, live action, and there's one called The Big Shows. So, and then, you know, Netcode comes along, and then there's the animation voiceover. There's a lot of stuff going on now, you know?
Yeah.
It is a lot.
It didn't affect my interviews. I was interviewing a lot of musicians and historians and other podcast hosts. And if I did talk to actors, they had been out of the industry for years and didn't even care about the industry anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, you could, you know, technically you could talk about movies or whatever without talking about promoting something.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it was awkward, and then so many other jobs are dependent on that. Not just the people on the crew list, but then you got to go to the vendors. You know, where does craft service get the food from? Where props, the prop houses, and you know, construction. There's all kinds of people that are effective, like once or twice removed.
Yeah,
I mean, it's billions of dollars to the California economy. Mm-hmm. Thank God. Thank God. I'm happy it's over. I really am. It's a lot of people, they kept wanting to go, you know, and not anything. But that's the thing about it. You know, it's said that a successful negotiation is when both parties are unhappy because they both maybe gave more than they wanted and got more than they truly expected, you know?
Right.
Because I know what we went in with. You know, as part of the national board meeting that approved the package, and I thought, well, you're asking for a strike. You know, you read that, you're asking, it's going to take a strike. You know that, and not just the strike authorization. This is war. You know, but a lot of it is making up for the subpar stuff in the past. So I mean, you know, we'll see what happens this year. You know, IATSE comes up this year. There's a lot of stuff coming up, and they have things. the days, these kind of days. Like, I've mostly worked in multi-camera because it's an 8 or 10 hour day. Maybe show day with audience is 12. But I mean, when I did the middle single camera Patty Heaton sitcom,
Yeah.
An average 12, 14 hour day, and that's mild.
Yeah.
These Ryan Murphy shows, you pull in 18, 20 hour days on those things. They look like films,
Yeah.
It's brutal on people. I mean, you're making good money, but you are paying for it with, sometimes you don't make it home. I had a solo spin out once in my car after an 18-hour workday.
Wow.
Thank God it was a solo spin out. But I was nodding off. And I wake up, and instead of just casually turning the wheel a skosh to the left and evening out the car, I panic and I turn right. And I spin out on the shoulder of the road, facing the other direction. And there's all kinds, and I hit a fence. There was a chain link fence there that was protecting people like me from falling into a ditch where they were building new houses. Thank God for that chain link fence. And I'm facing the wrong way, and all the dust from the side of the road is blowing. And I see a person, walk from the passenger side outside my window to my side. And it's a woman. And she says, "Are you okay? I saw you, from the other side of the freeway." And I'm thinking, this is 1 or 2 a.m. by the time I finished work. And I didn't see anybody on the other side of the freeway. But okay. I said, yeah. She says, "You want to get out of the car?" And I'm thinking, if I get out of the car, I don't know that I can get back in because I'm not sure what I've done to the door. And she had said, "Do you want to turn the car off?" And I'm like, I don't think I'll ever get it back on. No. But I did get out of the car or something, and she hugged me, and she said her name was Jenna, which is interesting because Jenna is the name of my best friend Carol in New York. Her daughter is Jenna. So I never did forget the name. And she said, "Do you want me to follow you home?" Because it was only 4 miles from my house. It was so close. I almost made it, And I was like, no, because I just felt so stupid, right? Mm-hmm. And I managed to get home. The wheel was shot and everything. But then she walked away, and I look on the other side of the freeway, and I don't see a car. Mm-hmm. It takes a while to cross the freeway, and I don't see a car there or anything. And to this day, I'm convinced that I have a guardian angel named Jenna.
Oh, I have several guardian angels, including my uncle I never got to meet, who died before I was born. And my mom felt his presence in her car when I was in the coma, and I woke up that day, and she found out that day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to that. When you get home and you recover, I'm looking up, hey, guardian angels, is that a thing? And I had read something that said the angel will often choose a name that is familiar to you.
Yeah.
So that you feel safe, or that I've never forgotten that name. I can't tell you the names of people I met yesterday, but I will never forget that.
Yeah.
So it's weird, and I truly feel like that was a close call.
Yeah. Who knows? But
and that got me out of the single camera jobs.
Yeah.
Because that was an 18-hour day, and that was Monday.
Wow.
That was freaking Monday. You got to get up on Tuesday and go back,
Yeah.
Those days. One of my first shows that I got to work on was Cagney and Lacey.
Oh, love it.
It was one of my favorite shows. In fact, at the end of the show, if you ever saw it, used to say the background or something cast by the Atmosphere Agency. And that was the whole reason I joined the Atmosphere Agencies. I wanted to get on that show because I thought those women were amazing. And I wanted to watch them work. Mm-hmm. And it took me maybe 4 jobs before I got on the set.
Yeah.
And I got there and I got to watch them, and I'm like, oh my God, this again, it's like a 16-hour Monday. How do they do this? How do you do this? I mean, you can study acting all you want. You can study theater. I did a lot of theater in Chicago, and I did plays out here. But it's beginning to end. It's you get there, you do 2 hours, you go home. It's not this. It's not, maybe your 16-hour day is just you walking through a door and saying hello or whatever, I mean, you have to keep your energy. This is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
This is not the acting that people study, This is like, how do you keep your energy up for this? And I watched them because I was in the background of some of these scenes, and they would be 8 hours on one scene. These are short scenes in the show, maybe 3 minutes or whatever. You're like, 8 hours on that? Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. It was a lot, and I mean, the two of them are incredible. Just to even be in the room and watch them work was really extraordinary. And I wound up dating the assistant prop guy on the show, and so he put my name in, and I got to work on it a lot, and got to hang out and talk to them. And I just enormous respect for that. But after meeting Jenna on the road, I thought, this sitcom thing sounds pretty good. Yeah, maybe I can make it home.
Yeah. I got to interview Sharon Gless a year ago, and she was awesome, really awesome.
Oh, I know, I heard that. Oh my God, I think she's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was a highlight, huge highlight for me.
Yeah, and she's funny. She's really funny too.
I know, she's only done one 3-camera sitcom, and that's it. She did the old Bob Newhart show in the 70s. I'm like, how come no one else ever had you on? Because you're funny as hell. She's like, I don't know.
She did a show called House Calls, which was before she got Cagney and Lacey. Yeah. And that was, I'm assuming, multi-camera, because most of the sitcoms then were multi-cams. But, she's really, really funny, and she just produced a film with a woman. What is her name? Dawn something. She's the woman that
Dawn LaFrida. She's the one who connected us, actually.
Yes, the one that with Denny's. They just did a documentary and stuff that was submitted for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sharon Gless is great, and the guy that I was dating, John, at the time, he was the assistant prop guy, so he would have her cigarettes were taped on him with duct tape. So she would finish the scene and he'd cigarette me,
Yeah. I was a prop guy backstage for theater.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay. We would hear the same musical songs over and over again. So me and the other prop handler, her and I, would just tell each other the dirtiest jokes to make each other laugh. Because it was so monotonous. And then we go backstage and tell the actors, and they would laugh, and they would tell us stuff too, and there was an actress who was blowing all the boys, including myself, backstage. It was crazy. You couldn't get away with that nowadays.
Probably not. Probably not. But wow.
I had fun being a prop handler, but now they're not needed. I've tried to do it again, but it's just they don't have it when you look at the things to do backstage for the theater companies. Now it's like prop handler's not there anymore.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder why I haven't done theater in a long time. I did a production in Chicago of The Miracle Worker with Rita Moreno, and every night before we went on, I was Helen Keller from the age of 10 to 12.
Yeah. And
every night before we would go on, somebody would tell a Helen Keller joke. They would try to make you break, just before you went on.
Yeah.
And some of them were like offensive, and after a while, you're just like, it's just so silly, And sometimes somebody would really, really get you, and you're like, damn it, I really have to hold it together,
Yeah. So do you have anything upcoming?
Well, we do have another Donna on the Go that's coming out soon. And a pandemic episode. And Donna has since moved. So she is in Palm Desert, where she rented out her home for a long time. Oh. And so, everybody wants to do it. Kate Linder wants to do it again. Kim Estes wants to do it. My friend Craig Hutchinson in New Zealand wants to do them. Michael Johnston, who's an Emmy Award makeup person. Ben Stedrick, who won an Emmy Award for stunts. Everybody wants to do it. So, I have a bunch of ideas. It's just, it's the logistics of it now. How do you pull it off? You might as well, right? As long as people want to do it and people want to see it, you got to make it happen.
You got to make it happen, yes. Yeah, but she was your roommate forever. I didn't know she moved.
Yeah, because because I was renting, because I got my apartment in Burbank, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, like a dual master, for my dad. You know, after my mom passed, so that he could come down and stay with me, and he have his own room and everything. And, you know, after he passed and my job situation changed, I'm like, well, hang on, I got a whole other room in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I started with a series of roommates, like a sitcom revolving door. Some were great, some not great, you know, and then somehow, Donna's sister had seen one of my Facebook ads and contacted me, and we knew a lot of the same people, so it felt like we were kind of vetting, you know, for each other. And yeah, you know, I mean, it worked out. She's honorable, you know. Some people aren't. Some people would sign a roommate agreement and then they take off, and you're like, excuse me?
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, you find somebody that's, you know.
That's what happened with me in that horror show I talked about earlier. Yeah. A lot of people were like, see ya. And I'm like, no, you said you'd help me, you know?
Right. Yes, exactly. So, I mean, when you find somebody like that, you're like, yeah, we'll figure this out, you know? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, so, well, you know, gotta figure out the logistics and math.
Yeah. Nap.
Yeah. But for a lot of it was, you know, when COVID hit and stuff, all the protocols that you would need to do, that I would need to do as producing it, you know, that would be my whole budget. That would be my entire budget would go to that, you know, like testing people and everything. Like, I can't do that. We're going to have to, you know, I mean, I have to be in compliance with the unions. These are union projects. And, you know, God, if anybody got sick on my set, I'd be devastated. So, yeah. So, let's wait for that to work itself out, you know?
Yeah.
So that, I mean, a lot of people don't. But that was the whole reason we didn't keep doing them. It was just like, I mean, you know, like Don and I threw a little money in there, and then I had to raise a lot of money to film it. And, you know, you're like your own studio, you know? It's like, it's a lot of work, you know? Like, I'm the cameraman, I'm the editor, I'm sometimes the director, I'm sometimes one of the writers, and I'm the publicist. And it's, wow, I'm tired, you know? It's a lot.
I know. I mean, I'm a one-man band with this podcast, you know. I book it. I do, you know, I do emails on Mondays usually. Sometimes I'll get a couple of responses that day, sometimes other days of the week. And, you know, I do research on everybody who's coming on for the first time, you know, and then I just have notes for conversations like this, you know, and I just wing it a lot and stuff. But it's a lot of work.
It is, absolutely. And I mean, my God, you've done such a great job with it. You've done so many of these. You should be so proud of it, you know?
It's
a lot.
I'm so proud. Coming up on 2,000 interviews pretty soon.
I mean, that's amazing. It's freaking amazing. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, 7 years of this. I can't believe it. Time's gone by and my hair keeps going away.
Just use an old picture. No one will know.
Oh, yeah. Well, that picture I have on my profile now, that was 2010. I had a lot more hair then.
There you go.
I have a couple jokes for you, hun.
Okay.
Why did the blonde have a bruised belly button?
I don't know why.
Because her boyfriend's blonde.
Oh, God. That's funny. It's subtle. I like it.
Yeah. What's the difference between a dildo and tofu?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
They are meat substitutes.
Okay. No, I wasn't going to go there. Okay. I thought it was going to taste better, but okay.
Oh, no, that's a thermometer joke. I remember that one. You know, what's the difference between an oral and a rectal thermometer? The taste.
Oh, God. Ooh. Yeah, no kidding.
Peggy, I love you so much, darling. Thanks for coming on once again. And, wow, this is probably the most revealing you've ever been.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm sure. But you know what? What's nice is it just feels like a conversation when we get to talk.
Always.
You know?
Yeah, always. Yeah. And, you know, this year, hopefully I'm going to make an LA trip, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I'd love to see you.
Absolutely. You have yourself a great rest of your day, hon. I'm so proud of you. Talk soon and be safe.
Okay, thanks. You too. Love you, Tommy.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Peggy Lane O'Rourke. Oh, you gotta love her. Oh, God, she's so fun, funny, smart, insightful, candid. I just love her. She's the real deal. Peggy Lane O'Rourke is the real deal. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!